Today we will render to Caesar what is Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. Just so we have more than that and all of context in saying that, um, because when we see that, we just forget everything else above it, right? Then the Pharisees met together to plot how to trap Jesus into saying something for which he could be arrested. Further down it says, Teacher, they said, we know how honest you are. You teach the way of God truthfully. You are impartial and don't play favorites. 18. But Jesus knew their evil motives. You hypocrites, he said, why are you trying to trap me? So as we unpack this, right, we have to look at it as um their allegiance to Caesar. Why did they have an allegiance to Caesar? Because now we have the whole book, right? At that time, living in the moment, of course, it's different, but we have the totality of the gospel, so we know the whole story, right? The Pharisees' allegiance was to Caesar for a reason. Their allegiance to Caesar was because they had the ear of Caesar and the governmental authority within that whole system, that whole corrupt system that oppressed um, those that were living within the walls at that time. Not only just the Jewish community, but all of those that were living within that community were under Rome oppression. And again, by the Pharisees owing their allegiance to Caesar, the reason they asked him that in public was, if we ask this in public and he say yes, pay the taxes, those within the community, not only the Jews, will look at Jesus as a traitor. But if he say no, don't pay the taxes, then there will be an uprising. But again, because it was in public. Oh, don't forget how they try to butter my man G up, right? We know how honest you are. You teach the way of God truthfully. You are impartial and don't play favorites. I know my man G had to have the screw face on that one, boy. Just what? You know what I'm saying? Like trying to butter my man up, trying to get him to let his guard down. You know what? I've been hard on them boys, man. They starting to get it now. They understanding. They getting what I'm saying. Not. Them boys was trying to get Jesus handed over, man. You know what I'm saying? So trying to get that man up out of here. So, as we continue to go on, he said, you hypocrites, right? Hypocrites because again, they had the ear of the Roman Empire. And then if we look at the tax collectors, they worked for the Roman Empire, right? These were some very wealthy men, right? We have Matthew, Levi, they were booth toll collectors. Zacchaeus, he was a chief tax collector. So that man was very wealthy, right? So we know the Roman Empire loved him because he brought in tons of money, right? So the Roman Empire loved these guys, Matthew and Levi and Zacchaeus and other tax collectors, right? So even if we look at Mark 2:15, later Levi invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disruptible sinners. So like these were people like nobody fooled with other than just my crew. This is my crew. We get down how we get down, and this who we hang with. Don't nobody else like us. It is what it is, right? And even the Pharisees said, like, yo, G eat with such scum, and this is who y'all following. So again, that's why he was like, you hypocrites, because you're doing this. Your allegiance, y'all like the same allegiance. So how dare y'all? So again, as we know that these guys came to be disciples of Jesus, right? Zacchaeus said, I will give half my wealth to the poor. I will pay back up to 4 times what I've stolen, right? Even John the Baptist told the tax collectors, stop taking more than what the government is has written for you to take. Take that and leave it alone. He told the soldiers the same thing. Stop being hard on the people. Stop oppressing the people. Let them live their lives. And through that, that exchange with Matthew, Levi, and Zacchaeus, and those other guys that were um, at the dinner, right? That in that exchange, um, Jesus' heart was revealed, and they had a revelation of who Jesus was, and completely changed their life, so much so that they became disciples. And as we know, taxes are for um, civic duties, protections, roads, schools, and I'm talking about now, right? And I'm, you know, schools, protections, and all of those things, right? But again, take what's needed and no more. Now, that shouldn't affect our public witness as believers, right? We should oppose injustice within those systems by petitions, voting, our voice being that prophetic voice for the people, as Jesus' voice was a prophetic voice in his time for those that were under oppression, and even those that are that has the ear of the politicians and the presidents, right? They should again not just go along with these systems and plans just because I can say I was in the room with these guys and making tons of money because I have insider trading and all of all other things that goes on with corruption, right? I should be a counsel to where if I disagree with what you're saying, then I'm going to leave that office or I'm going to stand in that office, but I'm going to let it be known I do not agree with this, right? Just as Jesus was letting it known, I do not agree with this. Paying taxes is not a confession that Caesar is Lord. It is an act of orderly citizenship, but giving God your heart, your allegiance, and pursuit of justice declares who truly reigns. And some of the reasons why, again, he called them hypocrites, the inward motives versus the outward words, pretending to seek guidance while plotting violence, using Rome's coin while questioning its legitimacy. Again, we were not made in the image of a public system that's temporary, that's corrupt, right? That's put together by man hands, because it's always going to revert back to the default of I um, I have to have this be successful at all costs. And as we see, that's what's going on. They're having these things be successful at all costs. I have to be judged at um, at all costs. I have to be DA, district attorney at all costs. Whatever it takes, I will be district attorney, and district attorney leads to becoming this. I have to be senator, governor. I have to take these steps by all costs to get into these positions by all costs, right? And us being believers, we we should not be submitting to that kind of rulership, right? Like, our allegiance is not to that. Our allegiance is to God, right? He gets all of our worship, right? He gets all of our conscience, right? By him, I'm able to point out injustice. I'm able to be holy. These systems does none of that for us. So why do we hold them in such allegiance, in such pride, and wear it with so much dignity and say, this is who I am, this is the pride of the South, this is the pride of this, when these things were built on bloodshed, these things were built upon death and corruption of people that didn't look like me. So I don't care um, what it takes to say I'm a part of this 1%. And that's what they're doing, just for people to say I'm a part of this 1%, to say I'm a part of this, when you're really voting against your best, you're really going against your best interest. And if we allow God to fix our heart and give him our allegiance, all of our allegiance, and not a system, and not be hypocrites ourselves, we will be able to see that that we've fallen victim, just as the Pharisees fallen victim, right? We see that we're just as corrupt as the tax collectors and other reputable sinners that Jesus invited in. But by the time that dinner was over, their heart was changed. So hopefully we have that same dinner, just as Zacchaeus. invite him in, and you'll see that your heart will change when you see that, okay, man, I was really tripping. I was really giving to Caesar. I was giving Caesar everything, and giving the scraps to God. So that's my take on give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. Don't be afraid to call him a hypocrite. Call him out. You know what I'm saying? Stand on business, just as G stood on business. 10 toes. I hope this frees some people up and help some people, help people out. Because like I said, it's all over different places in social media. You know, surrender to this, surrender to that, and it's like, nah, I'm okay. I'm gonna stay surrendered to the one that I'm surrendered under. That's going to help me navigate through this corrupt system. That's going to open doors for me to get into this system, and change the system from the inside. Just as I was changed from the inside out, we can change these systems from the inside out. But it's going to take for us to use our voice. It's going to take for us to use prayer, and again, align ourselves with Jesus to open those doors and put us in positions to say, I'm going to walk into this. So again, render to Caesar what's his and give God what is his. And that's our life, our worship, our allegiance. Peace.